Hello, welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Big Italy 42. Of course, he's Josh Shepardson at BChad50. We're here talking about tonight's action on DraftKings and one of the better slates we've seen this year. Lots of good arms going. We've got a lot of good things today. We got a course field game with two fly ball pitchers. A lot of things going in tonight. So without further ado, let's start off here at the top. We got Max Scherzer, 12.7K, almost a minus 300 favorite against arguably the worst offense against righties. If you want to go WOBA, Team WOBA, they're the worst. If you want to go WRC Plus, they're second. Doesn't matter. They stink. Scherzer is an elite arm. He's your obvious top option tonight.
Yeah, he's a staple in my cash games lineups tonight. Gonna get some GPP love as well, just because the upside is immense with him. But Scherzer, on a night where there are aces galore, stands above the rest, which, I mean, it's unbelievable that on such a deep slate there is someone that is so clearly the favorite. But the matchup, the numbers, everything is in his favor. Yes, he's pricey, but yes, he's worth it. Below him directly is King Felix at $10,800, but he has a tough matchup against the Blue Jays offense that's posting a 100 WRC plus against righties. Strikes out some, but it's at the Rogers Center. It's not an easy assignment. To me, he's a secondary cash games play behind a handful of other arms. Maybe a GPP option because he is expensive. Might see some low ownership, and obviously Felix is capable of special things. So if he is low owned and you get one of those special starts, Felix is going to put you ahead of the pack. But the other name that I really like tonight, and I think he's my second favorite arm of the night, is Zach Greinke. Gets to pitch at run-suppressing Dodger Stadium tonight against a below-average Padres offense. It's much better against lefties than righties. Strikes out quite a bit. Greinke's strikeout rate, as you and I talked about before the show, is a little bit low in terms of what you're looking for on this kind of slate. But the swinging strike rate's high, so I do expect the strikeouts to come at some point. And tonight's lineup is a good one for getting him some punch-outs against. So Greinke's my second favorite cash games option and a really strong GPP option. And then we both love Garrett Cole tonight. Very usable in cash games, third favorite cash games option, but second favorite GPP option, and it's two-pitcher site, so I really like the savings that he gives you from Greinke. $9,200, good price point against a bad Mets offense against right-handed pitching. Bottom 5 in WRC Plus against righties this year, and Cole has some big swing and miss stuff. My favorite GPP option that I'm going to give before letting you talk about a couple names yourself is Carlos Carrasco against the Reds tonight. The Reds do get the benefit of a DH, which means that you're going to get Devin Mesoraco in the lineup by most likely. But Carrasco really been hampered by strand issues and a high BABIP. Actually wrote about that for Rotographs yesterday. All the underlying stats look good. He's still striking batters out with runners on, not walking guys. So really just seems like some bad ball luck right now. Obviously, the defense behind him probably doesn't help either. The Indians do have one of the worst defenses in baseball behind him. But big swing and miss stuff, and Carrasco, love the strikeout upside, and love the price point. I think he's a great play tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, all those guys in play for me. Like we said, there's a lot of options, so I'll throw out a couple more that I'm on as well. Michael Pineda had a rough time out last time out, against the Royals, but we know they don't strike out. One of the more efficient offenses top to bottom in the league, maybe even number one as we go top to bottom between them and the Dodgers. Negative 2 points that one, but he did have 13 ground ball outs in that game still, so he keeps the ball on the ground. His 2 games before that, 8 innings, 5 hits, no earned, and 6 Ks at Toronto, and then Baltimore in Yankee Stadium, 7 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned, 16 Ks. So massive upside for Michael Pineda, and maybe some people will be scared off by him struggling against the Royals, but we've seen some elite arms struggle with the Royals, so I'm not concerned with that at all. Another guy I like in tournaments is John Lester. It is a tough matchup. Arizona does hit lefties well, but Lester really rounding into form, looking like the John Lester the Cubs were expecting when they traded for him or got him in the offseason. So he's another guy I'm looking at. Outside of that, if you're going cheap, really no one I love except a guy that we'll mention here. Ubaldo Jimenez does have some big upside. There's some concerns. You mentioned his swinging strike rate is very, very low, especially considering he's a guy with a well over 20% strikeout rate on the season. But he's pitching deep into games. He really only had one game where he was really bad. Had a couple where he was okay. But you look at his last couple games, he's pitching deep. I mean, 3 of his last 4 games, he's pitched 7 innings, keeps the ball on the ground, over 50%. So, I mean, he's a guy that you expect him to eat up some innings. If he gets you 6 or 7 Ks, you're thrilled at $7,000.
Yeah, I'll give you one more cheap name, a guy that you and I talked about before the podcast. That's lefty Scott Kazmir against the Rays. Rays actually hit left-handed pitching at a well above average clip, but Kazmir makes for an interesting GPP play because they also strike out in nearly a quarter of their plate appearances against lefties. Kazmir, one of the better swinging strike rates in the league, ranks top 15 at last check. So we're talking about a guy that can really miss some bats. If he's cooking, a lot of strikeout potential, just $7,600. A guy that might fly below the radar just a little bit because this pitching slate is just so deep.
Yeah, you don't expect many of the guys other than the top arms we mentioned to really be over 10% owned in most spots. I mean, obviously DraftKings with the two pitchers, you'll see some higher percentages, but yeah, guys like Kazmir really going to fly under the radar. And I mean, that's a Tampa Bay team that doesn't have a lot of power either. So you make a mistake across the plate, not a lot of those hitters are going to be able to punish you for it. So gotta like that. All right, as we move on here to catcher, Buster Posey is your top option. Next.
Yep.
I mean,
it's Coors Field. It's Kyle Kendrick. Lot to like here. Beyond the price tag, there's a lot to like. $5,000 going to be tough to budget for, but there's going to be some fireworks at Coors Field, and this is our public service announcement to you. You want some Rockies and Giants tonight. If not, you are risking your health in these games, the DFS games, whether they're cash games or GPPs.
Yeah, absolutely. Get yourself a lot of exposure. We got two bad pitchers, like you said. 10-run total. Don't overthink that one. Get yourself some exposure. I will have a ton myself. Elsewhere at catcher, you've got Brian McCann. I know you like him. I know I'm a fan. $3,700 against Mr. Colby Lewis, who is just god-awful against lefties. Short porch in Yankee Stadium. Lots going in his favor. Already mentioned the Rockies. Whichever cheap catcher's in the lineup tonight, Hundley or McHenry, makes for a fine play as well. Who else are you looking at here behind the plate?
I'll add Willian Rosario to the mix too, who is catcher and first base eligible. Should continue to see time at first base. You can dip down to Stephen Vogt, who is priced at $3,400. Chris Archer, tough matchup, is good against righties and lefties, but this is about as cheap as you're ever going to get Stephen Vogt. So definitely in play for me. I'll give you my contrarian corner pick for the DraftKings playbook today, and it's actually a duo. Whichever one is starting behind the dish for the Chicago White Sox, like Tyler Flowers and Giovanni Soto, $2,900 for either of them. They face Jared Hughes, who has a pronounced platoon split and actually struggles more with righties than lefties. Gives up a ton of fly balls. They're at U.S. Cellular Park. Both catchers have power. Doesn't take a lot to get the ball out at U.S. Cellular. Basically, GPP only option. But if you're chasing a home run and you're looking to save some money to budget for Max Scherzer and some of these other big ticket arms, I have no problem dropping down to $2,900 and grabbing one of these guys and hoping for them to find the seeds.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you can get a cheap catcher with power, that's really a great way to go, especially in your GPPs. So I'm with you there. We'll go ahead and move on from catcher to first base, where popular play is going to be Brandon Belt, of course, $4,900 at Coors Field. I like him a lot. You can play his teammate Buster Posey, who we already mentioned. He has first base eligibility as well. I'll give you a couple tournament guys I like. I like Jose Abreu a lot. Same reasons you just mentioned with Phil Hughes. Great park, fly ball pitcher. Gotta love that. As you look a little bit below that, there's Brandon Moss at $4,100. Mike Leake, terrible against lefties. You'll see a theme here. We like a lot of Indians. Brandon Moss, first base or outfield eligibility at $4,100. I think has big-time upside tonight against Leake.
Yeah, and teammate Carlos Santana priced at an identical $4,100. Another guy that's going to get to hit left-handed against Leake. I'm going to get a lot of Indians in there tonight. That left-handed heavy lineup is going to pose some problems for Leake, which adds to the appeal for Carlos Carrasco. Should get some run support tonight. But obviously, we both like Joey Votto. If you're not using Carrasco, gets a righty. And Votto does work against all pitchers, but is especially good against right-handed pitchers. Love Freddie Freeman against Willie Peralta. Peralta struggles mightily with left-handed batters. So you get the line drive hitting machine against Peralta. The more popular names that I think you're going to see high owned are Anthony Rizzo against Josh Colmenter at Chase Field. Huge upside, so it's understandable with him. And Paul Goldschmidt gets a lefty at home for just $4,800. He's under $5,000, which is a rarity for Paul Goldschmidt. Really like him as well. But those are your popular names. So If you're looking to differentiate in GPPs, I'm with you on Abreu. I also like Mark Teixeira. Switch hitter, gets to hit left-handed against Colby Lewis. I want some left-handed bats against him. And then the last name that I'm going to throw out there is Chris Crush Davis. Gets Henderson Alvarez. Alvarez was not quite right coming off of DL in his last start. Does not miss a lot of bats as it is, and really Chris Davis's biggest weakness is his strikeout rate. If he's not missing bats, I don't care if they're playing in the Grand Canyon. Chris Davis has the type of power to leave the yard, or in this case, to leave the canyon. Yes, Marlins Park is monstrous. It does have a really nasty park factor for left-handed batters, for homers, but Davis ranks in the top 20 in average fly ball and home run batted ball distance, so he does have the type of power that if he makes contact with Henderson Alvarez offering, it can go a long way, and I think he's going to be low owned as a result of the park factors.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you there. Like you said, targeting big time power bats in a less than ideal environment is a good way to go in GPPs because people may be off them for those reasons. So as we move on to second base here, I know you and I both love Jason Kipnis. He is expensive, going to be tough to fit with two big arms, but $4,900, he's hot. Mike Leake is not. Struggles against lefties. It's pretty simple there. As we move down, I'm not a huge fan of D. Gordon, but he's always in play for tournaments. If he does get on, he's always a threat to go. Been struggling recently, but like you said, the swinging strike rate with Ubaldo Jimenez very low. So if D. Gordon puts one in play, got to like his chances of getting on. And he will put one in play because he usually does. Elsewhere, Robinson Cano is going to be a popular play today. Still not showing that upside, but if there's ever a spot, it's the Rogers Center against Marco Estrada.
Yeah, definitely. He's my favorite play at second base tonight. The matchup with Estrada is dreamy. I mean, Estrada gives up a ton of home runs. Rogers Center is very good for offense, for doubles, triples, and for homers. So great venue, enhances run scoring. This is the spot to get Robinson Cano. And I think his early season struggles might leave his ownership a little light. Plus the fact that we've got $4,000 Joe Panik, who is going to be a very popular play at Coors Field. Understandably popular, but if you want to differentiate, spend an extra $500 on Cano. The ceiling is actually higher with him based on his own power. But Panik, strong play at $4,000. I like Neil Walker at the exact same price point against rookie Noah Syndergaard. Syndergaard not missing a ton of bats. I like the stuff. I like the outlook long term, but he's giving up quite a bit of line drives and has struggled with lefties in his couple of appearances so far this year. So I do like Neil Walker quite a bit. Beyond that, if we're really dumpster diving and you're not looking at John Lester and using him yourself, Chris Owings and Aaron Hill both look decent at $3,500 and $3,400 respectively. Offer some salary relief, which you're going to need if you're going to roster a guy like Max Scherzer. Of the two, I like Owings better, but keep an eye on the lineup spots for both. Either could have some value if they are slotted in the top 5 in that Diamondbacks order.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you there. So, like I said, that lineup does hit lefties well. So if you're not on the Lester train, then definitely get yourself some exposure there. As we move on to third base here, there's two options I know we love. One other option that I know you like a lot, I'm a fan of too. Chris Bryant at $5,000, my favorite play if you're paying up at third base. $5K, hit a home run in Petco last night, gets a nice park shift upgrade now to Chase Field tonight. Gotta love that spot for him. And then Nolan Arenado is going to be cheap, or not going to be cheap. He's going to be well-owned, high-owned, because he is fairly cheap at $4,300. At home against Vogelsong, who loves to give up a ton of home runs. So you got to like that spot for him. And then I know there's another pricey guy that you're a fan of here. So who would that be?
Well, I like $4,400 Kyle Seager, and this comes back to Marco Estrada's home run giving ways. I think that he's in a great lineup spot behind Robinson Cano and Nelson Cruz. Going to have some RBI potential. That's if Cano and Cruz don't find the seats themselves. But Estrada gives up a lot of home runs, and I really like Seager at the Rogers Center. Gets a break from Safeco Field and gets to face a fly ball pitcher and Estrada. And the fact that he, too, is not having a great start to the season, more mediocre than good even, going to keep his ownership rate down. So I really like him. Reminder, Chris Davis, third base eligible on DraftKings as well, does have that dual eligibility. If he's in the lineup, I like Alex Rodriguez at $4,100, but I kind of saved this little tease for the third base position. Joe Girardi, I noticed a couple times this year that if a righty with a notable platoon split, a sizable platoon split, is on the hill, he has actually given A-Rod the day off and gotten Garrett Jones in the lineup as a designated hitter. If Jones is in the lineup, he is just $3,100, and he would get that left-handed platoon advantage against Colby Lewis with the short porch at Yankee Stadium. So if he's in the lineup, he makes for a really nice GPP play. If not, I like Rodriguez at $4,100. Any other names you'd like to add to? Oh, and one more name. Sorry, I'm staring at him right now and fixed on him. He should be the most popular play at third base tonight, I believe, based on price point, based on facing a lefty, based on batter versus pitcher data, which I say that and drag it out because I'm not a big BVP guy. But Evan Longoria against Scott Kazmir tonight, $3,800. That's where a lot of people are going to be looking for salary relief, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'll be a popular play. Very popular non-cores play for sure. And Mike Moustakas is a guy I like at $4,000 against Lance Lynn. We were talking about it before the show a little bit. Lance Lynn finally getting his strikeouts going this year. Not a guy that has really shown that before. We know this Kansas City offense can put up points in a hurry. And, Mike Moustakas actually has the highest batting average of any third baseman this year. So he's been getting on base, scoring runs. And I like him as a nice contrarian play there at 4K.
Yeah, got two more cheap names for you. A guy that you and I talked about before the show. Going to be interesting to see where he slots in the lineup, but more Cleveland Indians exposure. $3,600 Lonnie Chisenhall looks really good. If he hits fifth for the Indians or somewhere thereabouts, possibly sixth even. Another lefty getting Leak's platoon weakness and hitting behind some guys that should get on base for him. And then Aramis Ramirez, $3,400 against Alex Wood. Really, you and I both really like the Brewers as a cheap stack or mini stack tonight. Last time they faced a lefty, they trotted out a lineup of Carlos Gomez, followed by Chris Davis, then Ryan Braun and Aramis Ramirez hitting cleanup. So $3,400, really good price point for him. Decent upside against Wood, who has struggled this year. I liked Wood a lot coming into the year, but he just is not missing bats and definitely gonna make for a challenging assignment with the Brewers tonight if he's just not right, which he hasn't really been this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm trying to pick on him tonight as well. Looking at shortstop, Brandon Crawford has deserved this top spot here. 4.9K. He's actually hitting the ball well. Left against Kyle Kendrick. You got to love the spot there in Coors Field. Troy Tulowitzki right behind him. Not playing him outside of tournaments. He just doesn't look good. Even the double he had the other day, if you look at his game logs, looked great, but it was a little blooper in the right field. Wasn't even a hard hit ball, so I'm not a big fan of Tulowitzki despite being at home until I see something. Gotta love Ian Desmond against Sean O'Sullivan. Should be hitting second tonight. Has a homer in the last 2 straight games. Batting a couple spots ahead of Bryce Harper. Anything involving you in a sentence with Bryce Harper in it, you're going to want the other part of that sentence that's not Bryce Harper. So Ian Desmond's a great play tonight as well.
Yeah, if you're looking a little bit cheaper, Eric Ibar's moved up to the leadoff spot with Cole Calhoun dropping to cleanup. $3,800, good price point for a switch hitter who's going to get to hit left-handed against Porcello. We know Porcello struggles with left-handed batters. I expect Yunel Escobar to be a fairly popular cheap option at shortstop, $3,700. Comes down to that Bryce Harper effect again. He has been hitting third, hits directly in front of Bryce Harper. A good spot to be because if you get on base, Bryce Harper's been doing damage lately. Decent cheap play. I'm going to go a little bit cheaper for my favorite play at shortstop, though. That's Jung Ho Kang. $3,500 against fellow rookie Noah Syndergaard. It's crazy to say that Syndergaard's one of the better pitchers to pick on tonight, but it's such a deep slate. I have no problem grabbing some shares of Pirates hitters, and Kong looks good. He's moved up to fifth in the lineup. I fully expect him to be in the lineup. He's really forced his way in there, whether he's playing third base or shortstop. Doesn't matter. He's shortstop eligible here, and at $3,500, it's hard not to like him. And the last name I'll give you, $3,400 Alexi Ramirez, righty, Phil Hughes, U.S. Cellular. You know the drill. We kind of covered that fairly thoroughly with the catchers and Jose Abreu.
Yeah, you can do the math on that one after the analysis here. As we move to the outfield, Bryce Harper and is your top play. I've also got Bryce Harper at number 2, just in case you're wondering. And below him, of course, some more big bats with all these games tonight. Mike Trout against Rick Porcello. He's starting to get it going. Homer a couple days ago, had 2 big games in a row. Nelson Cruz, of course, against Home Run Machine. Marco Estrada. I'll stop telling you all the guys directly at the top, since you can't read, so you can just read those yourself. But there's obviously some other options. I really like Ryan Braun tonight against the lefty. Big fan of his if I'm paying up a little bit. He's at $4,500, which is a really good price for him against not Travis Wood. They were pitched on the same day for a long time. Either way, Alex Wood, $4,500.
I'll dip into the pricey names again as well. Michael Brantley, $5,000. It only makes sense that we've been touting these left-handed batters from the Indians. Get their number 3 hitter. Makes more contact than anybody in the league right now. Speed, power, a little bit of everything, can do it all. Love him in cash games. Like him in GPPs a lot, too, because he's surrounded by so many left-handed batters that should pose problems for Mike Leake tonight. A guy that I think is going to be super low-owned, and I love because I love the Cubs tonight. $4,900 Dexter Fowler. Priced so close to all these superstars. $100 more than Carlos Gomez, who, by the way, I do like against the lefty tonight. But just $100 cheaper than Michael Brantley. I don't see a lot of people using Dexter Fowler tonight outside of maybe some Cubs stacks, which makes him a really low-owned play that I think has substantial upside, can work walks, has stolen 9 bases this year. Joe Maddon's letting those guys run wild, and Fowler's using his speed to pluck some bases. And then he's hit 4 home runs, gets a break from Wrigley and dealing with the wind blowing in, wind blowing out. Just gets to go to Chase Field tonight, which don't have to worry about the wind. You know you're getting great park factors there. Gets to hit left-handed against Josh Colmenter, who struggles with lefties. So really like Dexter Fowler as a GPP play. Brett Gardner, $4,500. He's a lefty. He's facing Colby Lewis. You know how that goes. Cole Calhoun's dropped to 4th in the order. Has really bumped his RBI potential. Left-handed against Rick Porcello. Nice little situation there since Porcello struggles with lefties. Obviously, get all of your Colorado Rockies outfielders that you can get. And basically get anybody at Coors Field that you can get. Never a bad choice tonight with 2 bad pitchers on the hill. Locaine, $3,900. Oh, I mean, Lynn is tough on righties, but Locaine has good splits against righties. Nice power speed combination for just $3,900. But I love another guy at $3,900. Going back to Chase Field, but taking the other side of things, I'm going to take A.J. Pollock against John Lester tonight. We know Lester's not throwing pickoffs. A.J. Pollock stole 3 bases this week in a single game. He has a little bit of power, and he has the type of speed that's going to give Lester problems if he gets on base. So I think if he gets on base, you can lock him up for at least a steal. If he gets on base multiple times, maybe multiple steals. So I really like Pollock at $3,900. Teammate Mark Trumbo, as long as he's in the lineup, $3,800. Big raw power, great for GPPs. Another guy that absolutely hammers lefties. So if you're not on that John Lester train, get yourself some exposure to him. And as far as outfielders goes, that's pretty. Chris Davis is the last name that I'll throw out there. $3,500. Big power against left-handed pitchers. Alex Wood not missing bats this year, so if he's not missing bats, Chris Davis is making contact. There is potential for that ball to go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the call there, especially with Pollock, a guy that with speed and power, not a ton of power, but any kind of speed upside you can have. 5 points for a steal on DraftKings is massive, especially you have multiple steal upside. You know, a guy like that could end up easily outscoring a power hitter, even if a power hitter hits a home run. I mean, you think about it, he gets a single, steals a base, and scores a run. All of a sudden, you're looking at 10 points right there. And home run's only 14. So I like that as a nice, cheap way to go in a tournament with some big upside.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get the A.J. Pollock single, steal second, steal third, then score the run because I'm a greedy son of a bitch, and that's what I want tonight.
Yeah, you know, that's a great way to win GPPs. Everyone thinks you need home runs, but you get a couple home runs mixed in a bunch of steals right there, and that's the big-time upside way to go. All of my best GPP scores have come via lots of stolen bases. So just keep that in mind as you're making your lineups. And then another guy you want to throw out from that game if you're not targeting John Lester is Yasmani Tomas. You look at what he's been doing, 6 straight multi-hit games at home against a lefty. He mashes lefties. And I'll throw him in there. And then I'm also going to throw in Jock Peterson at home because he's really cheap, $3,700 against Andrew Kashner, who has not been particularly good against left-handed bats this year. So maybe Jock sends one back into the seats again.
He's got the power to do it, and also got to love the walk rate with him. So outside of that strikeout rate that's a little bit elevated, a lot to like about Peterson. Lineup spot, power, patience, like that's a nice combination.
Absolutely. And with that, that's going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe, and check out all of our great content to help you win tonight at dailyfantasycafe.com, and we'll see you tomorrow.